Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top-quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, I'm Audley Stevenson, and thank you for tuning in to the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you taking some time out of your day and joining us here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping you live your best audacious life ever. As always, I encourage you to connect with us through our social media channels. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram under the handle The Audacious Pod. And then, of course, if you head over to Facebook and type in the Audacious Living Podcast in the search engine, you'll find us there. Also, our YouTube channel. If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, then you know that all you've got to do is tap the notification bell down below, and you'll immediately be subscribed to a channel and get notifications every single time we got brand new content that comes out. So again, I always encourage you to connect with us, and it's really simple to do because you can like, follow, subscribe, share, tell a friend, and let's keep this audacious conversation going. Now, we're going to talk on this episode of the Audacious Living Podcast about taking the leap of faith, or taking that leap of faith, to be more specific. We've all been there. We've all had that point where we've had to make that tough decision whether to proceed forward or not. And oftentimes, that one thing that holds us back from taking that leap and making that decision is fear. I remember one time as a kid, a whole bunch of friends of mine, we went to this huge water park. And this water park had this brand new slide that they were advertising. It was like a mile long, and it was one of those ones where you lie down and you go like a straight drop slope downwards. And I was all gung-ho. We all were excited about it. And I was gung-ho of trying it out, or at least that's what I thought. We got to the water park, and I remember the climb to the steep steps and this long climb up, and you climb all the way to the top, and then you get to the top, and I just remember looking down at the drop below, if you will. And I was on the verge of taking that leap of faith, but I changed my mind at the last second and ended up having to take that long, lonely walk down the stairs. Now, I tell that story because I think it's something that we all can relate to. We all have been there. And we're going to touch on that with today's guest on the Audacious Living Podcast. I got Tyler Foley joining me for a fun chat. Sean's a great guy. He's a performer, a speaker, a trainer. He's had extensive acting experience since a child. And he's even done some stunt work. So he's got a lot of great perspective to offer up. He uses his gift of public speaking and engagement to help others find their voice and breaking down those barriers that's kept them uncomfortable with the whole idea of public speaking. And that's a great lead into his book. He's got a book out called The Power to Speak Naked: How to Speak with Confidence, Communicate Effectively, and Win Your Audience. And I think speaking confidently is something that we all need to do or aspire to do. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into my conversation with Tyler Foley. Enjoy. Hey, I should have gotten that. I'm saying record now so I don't forget. That's what I
That's happened to me twice in this week already.
Oh, man, that's hilarious. I really don't have a whole bunch of canned questions, to be honest with you, Tyler. I just kind of go with what I think makes sense. And as much as we call these interviews, for me, these are just straight dialogues and conversations. And so
I've listened to your show, man. I'm already a big fan.
Oh, man. Oh, you're making my heart melt. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So, I mean, on that note, here, let me straighten my mic there. On that note, welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast. Glad you could be here, Tyler. It's great to have you. I've been looking forward to chatting you for a little while now.
No, I've been looking forward to this discussion myself, and thank you for having me on, Oddly, because honestly, the audacious living. Audacious living. I mean, that just embraces my life. It makes my heart swell with joy and pride to be on this show. Is a great gift. So thank you for that.
It's awesome. It's funny. Someone asked me the other day, did I come up with this title because I want to play off my name? And I'm like, actually, no, it was just coincidental, man. It just happened that way, right? So similar to you, and you're talking about your life and everything you've done. It fits right. It fits nicely.
Yes. It truly does. And I did have that question too. I thought how uniquely clever, but Kismet is also a thing too, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Hey, there you go. So again, Tyler, really appreciate you being here. We'll certainly talk about your book, but I often like to do the back stuff to kind of lead up to that, because it's interesting to know, the things that have gone on before people get to the point that they're at. And so for you, from what I understand, you've been in front of the big screen since the age of 6 years old as an actor. Wow.
Yeah, acting since I was 6. And if we want to split hairs, didn't start film and television until my late teens. I specialized on stage for the first decade of my performance career.
Gotcha.
Went to a fine arts high school, but yes, I did eventually break into film and television and have been on some really, really fun shows in my time.
Let's talk about a few of them. I mean, hanging out with Freddy Krueger and Jason, and come on, man, that's no small potato stuff here, Tyler. It's a big deal.
Yeah, no, honestly, that was one of my it's in my top 5 of my favorite shows that I've done. Probably my top 3. Meeting Robert Englund was who plays Freddy Krueger and is the quintessential horror film guy.
Legend.
To meet him in real life is incredible, because he's so kind and he's so generous, and he's got this mirth about him. Like, he's really, really quite a funny man. And then you see him and he gets in the makeup. Like, I was in the makeup trailer with him while he was getting all of his prosthetics on, and I'm like, hey, we're chit-chatting, and then they're starting to put this mask on him, and you literally watch him transform into Freddy Krueger, and you're like, oh, now, like, I'm in a trailer with Freddy Krueger. And then, he goes into wardrobe and he gets his glove. And the thing is they bring it to him on set. So and then he puts it on set. And you're like, wow. And then when I got the bit that I had, and I am a blink, I'm 30 seconds in that film tops. You can count the number of film cells.
1 steamboat, 2 steamboat.
Exactly. But my character morphs into Freddy Krueger. And so that was just a highlight, because there was a couple of days of filming that went with that just to make the effect happen.
Yeah.
And so I got to be on set a lot with it. And then I did some stand-in work on it and some stunt work on it too. So I got to be around that film for probably 6 weeks, which was
fair enough. Wow.
It was a blessing, and I just loved it. It was definitely a highlight.
So you talked about that being in your top 5. I got to ask what the others were then. Only fair.
Well, so my favorite that I've ever done is a movie called Door to Door with William H. Macy and Dame Helen Mirren.
Okay.
And when I actually got to do that show, it was the first time I really felt like a movie star.
Okay.
The evening that we filmed it was the only 3 named characters in the scene were me, Bill, and Helen. And I got like a star trailer. Like, you always know who the people on set that you need to know on set. They're the ones with the big trailer and the puffy jacket.
That's right. The size of the trailer.
Talent, the puffy jacket.
Yeah.
And that time I got the puffy jacket.
Nice.
I got a double wide star trailer.
Nice.
And I got my name on the back of the set chair.
Might as well. I mean, that's all that's left, right?
and it was such a small role. Like, it really was a bit part. If it was a principal role, I don't even think it had enough lines to meet a principal role, so it was still an actor category.
Okay.
But when Helen Mirren won her Golden Globe, the scene that they played at the Golden Globes was the scene between me, her, and Bill.
Nice.
And my phone went off the hook. We were like, I just saw you at the Golden Globes. I know.
That's right.
And so not only was it an incredible filming experience for the time that I was on set.
Yep.
Bill came into my trailer and we jammed. He was learning guitar at the time.
Amazing.
And like, I jammed with William H. Macy.
Amazing.
Like, who gets to say that?
Amazing.
I get to say that.
Amazing.
That is cool. So that's definitely one of my favorite memories.
Yep.
And then doing Carrie was an absolute blast as well. And to be honest, I don't think I've gotten a role ever where I've been like, no, that wasn't fun. I mean, in Scary Movie 3, I literally play a numbered character, Frat Boy number 1.
Yep.
Less celluloid in that one than Freddy versus Jason.
Yep.
That was fun too, because I got to hang out with a whole bunch of guys and we were just being silly, and that's a silly franchise anyways. And I got to do the puke. You know, when they make you the projectile vomit thing? I got to do that. I got to get all rigged up to do the pukes. I mean, so it's just, you know, I got to play for a living, and that's always a highlight.
Well, and Tyler, I think that's a really, really important point. In this is that, whatever, as you're going through whatever process, to find those areas of enjoyment and fun, and the role itself. I think this is perfect. We're talking about acting, but this is perfect because it doesn't matter how large or small your role is, there's still some sense of enjoyment in it, right?
Always. And I mean, and that's the thing, right? There's no small parts, only small actors. And I've made a career out of very, very small parts.
That's right. That's right. That's
like,
amazing.
you go through my IMDb credits, and a lot of them are numbered for generically named characters.
Amazing.
And so it's, it was really fun. But anytime you get to be on set and play, I mean, it's because it's play. Yeah, that's always fun. But and my heart is still in the theater. Gotcha. Film and television is great because it pays bills.
Sure.
But theater is what ignites me as a performer. The ability to feel feedback instantaneously from a live audience.
Yes.
It's just a beautiful thing.
Nice. So talk about being a stuntman. Like that's a cool thing to be able to say, first of all, right? To say, I am a stuntman and I take those risks and I take those chances. Hey, I'm audacious.
That is audacious living. But here's the thing, and it's often a large misconception about stunt work. Is that you are taking risk.
Right.
The whole point of stunt work specifically is to minimize risk, to do things that look dangerous in a very safe, very controlled manner. And I was lucky because I'm an actor who has done stunts.
Yes.
Because right now, guaranteed, at least one or two of my friends from the West Coast are listening to this right now, and they're like, "Oh, Tyler, come on, you're not a stunt man." And to that, I would agree. We have a really tight-knit group of stunt professionals here in Canada. And in fact, there is a union for them called Stunts Canada. And those men and women are just the consummate professionals at what they do. And I was lucky to get to work with and train with some of the top names in the industry. And be able to be a performer who was allowed to do stunts and learn the tricks of the trade and do some audacious things like jump out of 6-story windows and live to tell the tale. So that was fun. And yes, stunts is cool, man.
Oh, that's cool. And listen, at the very least, it's a great conversation starter. Like, I mean, you win for sure in that category.
Not only that, but I've turned it into a career of talking about how jumping out of windows is the safest job that I ever had. And I mean, I'm a man of many vocations. I feel like the introduction in Wayne's World, when Wayne Campbell is walking through his house and he's like, I've had many Joe jobs. Let me put it to you this way. I have an extensive collection of name tags and hairnets, and then he shows them on the board.
Yeah.
I feel like that. Like, I feel like I have dabbled in every industry on the planet, from aviation to oil and gas, construction. I was a post office worker for a season over Christmas. You know what I mean? Like, you pick the career, and I've probably dabbled in it for a week or two.
Love it.
Or played it on TV.
I love it. Well, and it's funny because I was just going to say, I wanted to sort of move the conversation to get more current, because we could talk about our past, our history, and all the jobs that we've done. But the thing, and I'd love to get your comment on this. Oftentimes, we'll get to a point and we can look back at all the jobs we've done, the experiences, and we can see exactly where they fit and how they've led us to the point that we arrived at. And I'm assuming with all that you've done, you could probably relate or have a comment on that.
Do you know, I've had such a circuitous journey to where I am. And yet, if I look back, the path is a straight line that led me here. It seemed so winding at the time and so diverse. But yes, when you start working as a 6-year-old, and somehow skirt labor laws. That's a great thing about being in performance. They're like, how old are you? You'll do. My daughter has been acting on film and on sets since she was like 11 months old.
I love it.
So,
love it.
I'm very cognizant of the fact that it's odd for somebody who's 42 to have had a 35-year career.
It's amazing.
But or
so awesome.
Look this young too. I moisturize, man.
You do well. You do well.
Yeah. So, but every moment has had an impact and an influence on the next moment. And without each one of those little pebbles in the ocean, I wouldn't have had the ripples that then became tides that pushed me to the shores that I'm on right now. And it's amazing when I look back on it, all the different things that I've done that have both helped me land roles.
Yep.
I grew up in a small rural town, and now that I'm living in Calgary, most of the film that is done around here is based around the fact that we have an unbelievably large Western frontier.
Yes.
And so, when they ask, can you ride a horse? I get to say, yeah. I've been doing it for a very long time. Right. I don't do it well.
Right. But hey, do it.
I'm comfortable around livestock, man. You want to throw me on a horse? I'm good right up to a canter. I look ridiculous at a gallop, but hey, you're not filming me for that. So we're good.
Correct. Yeah, no, and again, and I think the part about this too, sometimes that when we talk about that sort of winding path, it makes zero sense. It's like, why am I doing this? I don't know. I'll just do it anyways. And then again, it turns out to be that thing that you did. And again, and even in the acting, the context of acting, you go to an audition and you're one of 10 actors are auditioning for this part, let's say, but that one thing that you did in that moment that didn't make sense, but you did it anyways, is a piece that's a difference maker.
Well, and even I look at my, aside, because I technically retired from performance at 25.
Okay.
And so I've been 17 years semi-retired because my agent keeps phoning me with all these good projects. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go do that. Why not? Right. Ron Howard's up here producing a mini series right now, and it is awesome. And I was like, yeah, I want to work with Ron Howard. Yeah, I will audition for that. That can be a thing. But even in my, in my consulting right now as a speaker and trainer and safety consultant, first of all, I got into safety consulting because of stunts.
Right.
Being able to recognize the engineering in there. And one of my clients right now that I literally just signed the contract this morning at 7:30, I got because they needed somebody who would coach and mentor their stakeholders. Okay. And they are a medevac company. Okay. So they run a helicopter. I worked for the largest airline in Canada for 3 years. So I have an aviation background. And when I went back to school and got my engineering discipline, the first company that I started was an aerial photography firm, and we ran a fleet of 3 planes. So I have aviation experience, I have the safety experience, and on top of it, I wanted to approach all of my clients as though they were, right, corporations are people.
Yes.
And I thought, well, let's take that to the extreme. So that means that corporations must have core values, they must have intrinsic value sets, and if they are people, let's treat them like people. So I'm going to coach the company and not just the people within it. And so I actually went and got a coaching designation, an ICF accredited coaching designation.
Yeah.
So that I could approach my clients from a proper coaching perspective, which helped me land this gig because they're looking for people who can do that.
Yeah.
And so within that whole thing, like it's so weird how all those puzzle pieces come together. And I know the point that it will make sense for me, and that'll probably be 3 seconds before I take my last breath.
Right.
And I look back and go, oh, of course.
Yep. No, bang on. So then let's transition to in your speaking career, because so you now have taken all your experiences, all your life lessons out on stage to inspire and help audiences. Is that a good, accurate way of putting it for you?
Yeah, and I would say that I want to encourage and educate audiences. I think that is a key component to inspiration. But my goal is always to let people know that their story matters.
Yeah.
And encourage them to tell it. I can't necessarily inspire them to. I know really good inspirational and motivational speakers, people who can compel people to dig deep within themselves and find strength that they didn't know that they had.
Yep.
And I love going to those presentations, but I am not that guy. Where some speakers are a lion's roar,
yes,
I'm a whisper of a wind through a meadow. That is an indication of a change of season, and I just want to be able to be that first little guidance or signpost to let people know that, hey, you don't have to fear this great fear that 77% of the world claim to have anxiety over, which, by the way, is total bunk. Right. People aren't actually afraid of public speaking. If they were, society would collapse. So it's not a thing. That's
right. Well, so with social media too, right?
Yeah.
No one has problems speaking there.
No.
So
and that's the real funny thing is that people will be like, well, it's because I'm protected somehow. And I'm like, no, you're not. You get more viciously attacked on social media than you ever would in a live presentation.
That's exactly it. The other part, I think, to your point around the importance of people telling their stories is recognizing that their stories do matter, and everyone does have a story. Yes. I think sometimes it's easy to go, well, I didn't have this major traumatic situation, or I didn't go through a life-shattering whatever. I have nothing interesting to say, but that's not the case.
No, and that's the thing. It doesn't have to be, and in all of our workshops that I put on, whether it's our 2.5-day workshop or the 5-day seminar, or even on, some of my 1-hour trainings, one of the first things I have people do is break their life into 5 equal time periods, right? So you take your age, divide by 5. You use simple elementary school division 2, right? We divide to the whole, and then you get the remainder. You just tack the remainder on to the beginning, because nobody remembers the first 2 or 3 years of their life anyway. So we give you a little bonus bump, right? And so what we do is we look at what are the 5 most significant memories that you have.
Yes.
I don't say what are the 5 most tragic things that have happened to you. Yes. That's ridiculous. What are the 5 most significant memories? And a lot of times we have 3 or 4 that are very positive in our life, and then maybe 1 or 2 that could be perceived as a negative, depending on the context that you put with it. And then the big question is, why are those important to you, and what were the lessons that you learned? And those become the lessons that you can pass on to your audience. And secret, your ideal audience is speaking to you 5 to 10 years ago. And all of those memories are the lessons that you needed to get to where you are now. And it's just that simple. And when people realize that it's that simple, all of a sudden we all have stories and we all have the ability to share our experiences and our impact. And they don't have to be Shakespearean, and they don't have to be a Michael Bay blockbuster.
Right.
You don't need to have a bridge blow up to tell an exciting story.
This is exactly. And I think too, as well, is that maybe not everyone can relate to the experience of, I don't know, say jumping out of a window, but they can relate to the lessons that you take from that. Right. And when you're standing in front of an audience and you're sharing your story, you want to be able to connect with them. And it's those lessons that make that connector.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing. When I talk about jumping out of a window, being the safest job that I ever had, I still like to point out to people that at some point I had to stand 60 feet in the air on a ledge and fight every instinct in my body that said, do not jump, and trust an army of people that they did their jobs correctly so that I could walk away from that.
Yes.
But everybody can understand the feeling of standing on a precipice of anything and taking a leap of faith, because that's all I did. That's all I did. I leaned forward, let gravity take control, and then trust in a higher power.
Yes.
That it was going to be okay.
Yes. And, you know, and the thing that oftentimes happens is when we make that leap of faith that we've made, it leads to other things, but you don't get to those other things until you make that step or you make that leap. So we have to, we have to be audacious enough to do that. Right. Because it doesn't get us anywhere.
I can talk about jumping out of windows, but it's just as hard for somebody who looks at their spouse and goes, I'm quitting my 9-to-5 because I've had enough of it and I want to start this next venture.
Right.
To me, that's more terrifying than 3, 2, 1 jump.
That's right. And it's a really good point, because oftentimes the things that are scary to you aren't to me. And, you know, and vice versa. So, you know, when you look at sort of, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. He's like, well, why not? What's the big deal? Right. We haven't touched on your book, The Power to Speak Naked, but I think we're going to have to do a part 2 of this, because
I agree.
We wouldn't be doing any justice by rushing through this. And we certainly need to give it its proper due. So we're going to pause here for a moment, Tyler, and we're going to bring it back. Part 2, we're going to get right into your book, The Power to Speak Naked, because with that book, you are empowering people to get over this supposed fear of speaking that we just talked about.
Well, it's a fun digest into 35 years of my experience of how to really explain to people that they're not afraid of public speaking. They're actually afraid of public judgment, and doing some deep dives into how to get over that fear and tips and tricks to overcome it. So yes, you are correct. I am going to have to come back. We will do a deep dive into the book. But in between now and then, if I may, oddly, for those of you who are listening right now to the Audacious podcast and are getting value out of it, I would ask, if they do want me to come back, first of all, put some comments down below and say, hey, that Tyler guy seemed interesting. I want to hear more. But if you're going to do that, do me a favor, because the only way that Oddly can have guests like me or anyone else on the show is by giving it a 5-star review. So whatever platform you're listening to this on right now, just take a moment, hit pause, won't interrupt the flow any, and give this a 5-star review, and maybe leave a comment for Oddly so that he knows. What did you think of this episode? What is your favorite episode so far that he's brought? You know, maybe put a comment or a mention on that. Listen back to a couple and give some comments. But 5-star review, and then come back, and I'll be a guest back here for sure. And we can talk about the power to speak naked and all things fun public speaking. For sure. Well, I do appreciate that little shot in the arm and encouragement for our listeners. It is important, and podcasters would know and understand that. So thank you, and we absolutely, Tyler, will get into this because it's a fun chat. So thanks for being here, and get ready for part 2 because it's going to be good. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you then.
All right. Hey, back. We are here on the Audacious Living Podcast. And again, thanks so much, Sean, for being here. Definitely can't wait to have you back on for part 2 so we can finish that audacious conversation we were having about confidence and especially in the framework of public speaking. So really looking forward to having back on so we can get that going again. You know, Sean left us so much to think about, but if there's just one thing that I take from our conversation, it would be this. For a lot of people, the prospect of diving into the unknown, uncertain, or unfamiliar isn't a completely comfortable feeling, particularly since we don't know or have any assurity of what the end result will be. We're often scared that things could go wrong or things will be uncomfortable, or maybe things that we've laid out won't be as we expected them to. Well, whether it be jumping out of a 6-story window as a stuntman or standing in front of a packed audience giving a speech, we all at some point or another have to step up and confront our fears. And that's when we take that ever important leap of faith. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, please know that you can do so by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com. All you've got to do is enter in your email address and you will immediately be connected. It's just that easy. So head on over and take care of that. And again, you will always stay in the know. We've reached the end of another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast, and always I thank our listeners for the tremendous support, the ongoing support. It's fantastic. I thank you, and I encourage you to keep it going. As you heard Sean talk about, you can head over to your favorite podcasting platform. Certainly give us a rating, a nice comment. That would be so much appreciated. And again, it helps the podcast and helps the platform grow. So again, if you've done that already, great. There's still an opportunity for you to do so. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.